Today we're making a giant cup of hot chocolate made entirely out of styrofoam blocks. This cup of hot chocolate will be the perfect addition to any indoor or outdoor Christmas decorations. So join me for this amazing tutorial. To begin making our cup of hot chocolate, we need styrofoam blocks. Now, I get all of my styrofoam blocks on Facebook Marketplace, but another great location is the Tractor Supply store. Now, if you go to the Tractor Supply, speak to management or someone in receiving. Some stores are more than happy to get rid of them, while others have strict rules that don't allow them to be given out. So definitely speak to management. Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace are also the go-tos to find these styrofoam blocks. They measure 12 inches by 12 inches by 19 inches. We need 4 of these blocks for this project, and we're going to glue them together using expanding foam. Now, I always use window and door, it's the blue bottle, of the expanding foam from Grit Stuff because it doesn't expand as much. As you can see, I've already glued them together over here, but it's super simple. We've done this many times before. What we do is we put expanding foam on the inside. On all the surface areas that touch, we put expanding foam. Then we simply put them together, and we can use some bricks to hold them together. We can use pieces of wood. We can use some straps or rope to hold it together while it dries. It should take no more than 3 to 4 hours for it to be dry. But to be sure, I always leave it like 6 hours and then we're good to go. So once you've glued this together, we're good. Now we have to start carving it. We have to start cutting the areas of the sides, and we're going to be using either a handsaw or a hacksaw. Let me show you how to do either of them really quickly. Before we continue with this tutorial, I wanted to show you all the first book that I've written. It's called Little Olive and the Wally Bat, and it's rated for kids ages 2 to 6 years old. It follows a brave little olive that gets lost and is found by a very helpful brown bat. This is the first book I've ever written, and I'm super excited about it. It's available on Amazon via paperback or Kindle. So if anyone wants to support me or read it to their kiddos, go check it out. The link is in the bio of the video, Little Olive and the Wally Bat on Amazon. Now let's get back to this amazing tutorial. Next, we need to get the shape of the cup going. And what I have here is a screwdriver, some nylon cord, and a marker. And all we've done is inserted it right there in the middle. And then you measure the length of rope till you get to the edge right here, or should I say of the cord. And once you got that, then we're going to be able to draw a circle just like this. Takes the guesswork out of making a circle. So just like this, we start here. And there we have our circle. And now we need to start cutting these sides off. We could use a reciprocating saw, a handsaw, a miter back saw. I have 2 tools that I use, which are right over here. This is my reciprocating saw. And then I put a longer blade on here, I believe a 9-inch blade, or we could use this one, my miter back saw. So either or will work. This one is very inexpensive. They sell it at the hardware store, and we can start cutting it out. So I like to put a plastic tarp or do it in the garage where it's easier to sweep up and vacuum, because this does get messy. But thankfully, we only need to cut this shape. We only need to cut down that shape. In my other videos where we do round objects, it's much more complicated because you have to get a round circle. But this one should be easier, so let's get going. And this is what it should look like once you've cut the sides off. All I used was the miter back saw. It was super simple, and that saw is super inexpensive. So now that we got the rough shape of a cup, or should I say a mug, we need to sand the sides. So I'm going to use an 80 grit orbital sander, but you could use a regular sander. You could even use just a sheet of 80 grit sandpaper. It's just going to be a lot of sanding. And then we're going to start passing it all over the edges. We want to get this into a nice mug and round type of shape, or cylindrical type of shape. So we're going to do that, and let's put our hearing protection in, our eye protection, and let's get to sanding. For the marshmallows, I'm gonna cut one of these cubes in half. I wanna see if it'll look good as a marshmallow. We cut it in half, then we start cutting off the edges and start sanding it to give it a marshmallow-like look. So let's get to it. Now that we've cut our styrofoam block in half, we're gonna do the exact same thing we did with the cup. We're gonna make the circle on top. So we have our screwdriver, our piece of nylon string, and we have our marker right here. So all we're gonna do is make the circle, just like that. Cutting it off once again with our miter back saw, and we'll get our marshmallow. And this is what it should look like once we're done cutting the edges. It's almost a cylindrical shape, so now we're gonna do the same method we did for the cup. We're gonna get our 80 grit sandpaper, we're gonna sand the edges to make them smooth. But the difference is that these edges right over here along the rim, we need to smooth them out as well to give it more of a marshmallow kind of look. So we don't want it to be so choppy right over here just like that. So let's smooth out the edges from the top and the bottom. Actually only from the top, because the bottom is going to actually be on the cup itself inside of the hot cocoa. So let's just do the top, and once we're done with that, we're good to go. All right, I know it's dark right now, but hey, we work long hours here. So the next step we want to do is create a rim, the rim for the cup. So we only want it to be about 1 to 2 inches deep. And the easiest thing to do is ignore this marker line we have here. That was a previous line, we're done with that. What we want to do is probably do it like 2 inches from the edge. So you can do it thicker, you can do it thinner. I'm just guesstimating right now. So what you want to do is gently get your insulation foam cutting knife. I always link this in the description. And just like that, you gently just want to go like this. So you could get the rough area of where the rim is going to be. We're going to do it in sections. So once you do that, I realized my camera was not recording when I was doing this part, but it's super simple. Let me show you what you missed. What we're doing now is creating the rim of the mug. As you can see, it's divided into 4 parts because we used 4 cubes. So it's super simple to do. All we're doing, as you can see we did that, is gently marking out about 2 inches away from the edge. You just gently want to go like this. You don't even have to measure it, you can just wing it, like I'm winging it. And yeah, that looks good. If you need to adjust it, you can just redraw the line. Then with your insulation foam cutting knife, that I always include in the bio description, you want to go down about 2 inches. And you're going to cut tracing that outline that we just made. Make sure you're going straight down about 2 inches until you get to this quadrant over here. Then what we're going to do, say this one wasn't here, which makes it super easy because now we can just stab it to the right. But say this was the first one we were starting with, all you're doing is digging in like this and you're starting to cut. Just like that. And we want to go down about 2 inches. You could go down deeper if you'd like to, but that's all we're doing. Just like that, taking it off. And when we get to this area over here, you want to be careful not to cut past the line that we did. So I'm going to dig all of this out first, like that. Just like that. And when we get to these areas, carefully pull it out. And bam, just like that, it comes out where we were cutting. So just make sure that it's deep enough so that you don't break it while cutting off pieces. Just like that. And we'll continue doing that until we get it to look like this one over here. And once you do one, then it's easier for you to move on to the next one by just stabbing forth like that and starting to cut it out. And this is so that we have a nice rim, so it looks like it's a mug filled almost to the top with some hot chocolate. So let's keep going. thankfully Santa has a little elf that can help him with the handle.
There you go.
Awesome. Thanks, Olsey. So here's what we have so far. I'm going to be adding this candy cane that I got from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to cut it so that it's shorter, and I'm going to stick it on the back so that it'll be marshmallows and a candy cane that are sticking out of it. But you can use anything you want. It doesn't have to be a candy cane, but I thought it would look really nice. So before we start painting, we're going to apply a thin layer of joint compound. This is so that we can seal in these cracks and these pieces over here that are missing foam, because it doesn't matter if we sand it and sand it and sand it, there's always going to be places that aren't completely smooth. So some joint compound all over the place, get it nice and smooth, and then when it dries, you can sand it lightly with an 80 or 100 grit sandpaper. Or if we do a really good job, we won't need any sanding. But let's get to it so we can finish off the exterior of the cup. Now that we've cut our handle, get an 80 grit sandpaper sheet and just soften the edges. This is optional, but I think it makes it look so much nicer when we soften the edges. So once we've done that, get some toothpicks. As you can see, we have toothpicks here, and we're going to insert it into the cup, but we need glue. Use industrial strength glue, exterior grade glue, but don't use hot glue. It doesn't do all that great in rainy or snowy conditions. So I have something called Styrogoo, which I used to adhere these cubes together, but you can just use any type of glue that's rated for outdoor use. Once we apply it there, we'll keep it in place for however long the instructions say to keep the contact and pressure, and then we're good to go to the next step. Now that we've painted our cup red, it's time to paint the inside of it. I'm using this color sample from Lowe's. They sell for about $4, and this one is called Delta Sandbar. It's a type of milky brown color. We're going to paint the top of it. Another thing, since this is a cup on the top over here, we might want to drill 2 holes, very small holes, on the side over here so that any water that accumulates can drain out. I'll probably drill a hole right over here where it's not noticeable, so that any water that gets in there, it's easy to accumulate, or if it gets with water, you can just tip it over. But that's just a little tip for you. So let's apply this. One last thing. We're using exterior paint, so this is essentially weatherproofed. You don't need to add any other protective covering on this because we're using the appropriate paint. So let's get to it. To finish with the marshmallows, we're going to use some white caulking. You can use any brand, any style. And what we're going to do is use it as an adhesive. We're going to put some in the bottom so that this gap over here is gone. So it'll look like the marshmallow is melting a little bit, and it'll also hold them in place. So make sure you position them where you want, and then we can begin caulking them. For the last detail, I have this vinyl sticker that I found on Amazon. It says Merry Christmas on it. I'm going to try to stick it to the front of the cup. This will be the final detail. This is completely optional, but I link everything I use in the bio of the video, so let's get to it.